It's time for another edition of Lewis at Large, 60 minutes of smart talk radio featuring guests from all walks of life in conversation with your host, Warner Lewis. So sit back and lend us your ears for the next hour. Now here with today's first guest is the host of Lewis at Large, Warner Lewis.
Well, welcome everybody to another segment of Lewis at Large. Yours truly, Warner Lewis from the flight deck. And of course, as always, that means some smart talk radios in your future, and this segment certainly no exception. Very pleased to have Larry McElwain, the president and CEO of the Chamber of Lawrence, Kansas. He has been in the saddle now for a while, and we are excited to talk to him not only about the economy in general in Lawrence, but also, of course, the work of the Chamber, the vision of the Chamber, and accomplishments in the past and what they're looking forward to in the future. So with that, kind of as a rough intro, Larry, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, Warner.
Good
to talk to you today.
Well, again, we have not. It's been a while, and very happy to have you on here. Let's do this. Let's give people a refresher, a little bit about your background. You were in private business for quite a while here in Lawrence before joining the Chamber. But tell us about that and how the Chamber came to be your home as of now.
Well, I graduated from KU in 1970, and I went away to California for a year of training to be a funeral director. And I was in the funeral business in Lawrence for 43 years. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the opportunity to serve people and the opportunity to get to know a whole lot of people, build a lot of relationships. I was a volunteer in a number of nonprofits, including the Chamber. And I served as the chairman of the board of the Chamber in about 2003, and I served on several other task forces and committees. I was on the board over those 40 years. I was on the board 4 times. I was only the chairman of the board in that 2003 stint, and I sold the business that I had owned in October of 13. I intended to work for the owner, and that was working out just fine. I worked with him for about 8 months, and over the years, I'd been good friends with Gary Tobin and the 4 other CEOs that had preceded me at the Chamber. So I knew a lot about the ins and the outs of the Chamber world and what their challenges were and what their opportunities were. And I had even told my family 30 years ago that the only other job in this town that I ever thought I'd like to have is the Chamber CEO job. I never thought I would ever sell my business, and I never thought Gary Tobin would not be the CEO of the Chamber. So I felt I was safe in saying that, and it turned out to happen. But I was in South Miami Beach in February of 14, and I got 14, and I got a text from the current CEO saying, "Look at your email." And on that email was his letter of resignation to the board. I conferred with my family about it. They felt like, "Dad, and it's time for you to do what you said you wanted to do 30 years ago." So I had to wait and see how the job description was written, if I fit the qualifications. I did. I made application. I was interviewed. And I went to work June 16th of 2014 as the CEO and president CEO of the Chamber.
What, Larry, again, running a successful business for a long time, a local business, family-owned, what kind of perspective do you think that gave you versus maybe some other what might be considered fairly or not sort of professional Chamber CEOs that kind of move around the country on that kind of conveyor belt? What perspective do you think that how did that help?
Well, I think I'm correct in saying that Lawrence was in need of somebody with a business perspective. I certainly had that. And also, a perspective of a lot of friendships, a lot of knowledge of the community, and more importantly, a love for the community, in that I didn't have to get used to Lawrence. I didn't have to move here from somewhere else and get used to Lawrence and have my family like it also. That had already occurred. But I think knowing business and how it runs, small business, because most of our members of the Lawrence Chamber, we have 1,400 members, which represent 900 firms. A high percentage of those are small business owners, like I was. I think, just understanding what it took to run a business, what it took to do the financial part of small business, it's a challenge. It's very challenging to run a small business. And ultimately, you have a lot of decisions that fall directly into your lap, and you have to make the right decision. You don't have a board of directors to go to, which I do have now, a board of directors that I can seek information from and opinions. Back then, it was just, I had a great partner for 27 years, but I ultimately, a lot of the decisions had to be made by me, the owner.
What about, and again, if you just joined us, yours truly, Warner Lewis from the flight deck of Lewis at Large Radio, talking to Larry McElwain, the president and CEO of the Chamber of Lawrence, Kansas. And they've also recently produced a new economic development video, and we will talk to Larry about that a little bit later in the show. But Larry, also, let's be honest, in Lawrence, Kansas, there are certain fire starter statements, fire starter organizations, and the Chamber is certainly one of those, depending on your perspective. They have been very proactive and led the charge on a lot of economic development, but with that charge sometimes comes criticism about either land use or the quality of the jobs or paving at any price and all of that. Is some of that healthy, do you think?
I do. I understand that it can be frustrating and it can be negative at times, unduly negative. But I think when you're trying to serve a community of our size, you do need a lot of different kinds of jobs. You can't expect that they're all going to be high-tech or high-paying or require high education. A lot of it in recent years has become more a factor of looking also at people that just want workforce training. Maybe don't want to go to college or junior college. They may just want to be able to have a job a trade that they can do. And now with the Peasley Center here in Lawrence, we've got, in the College and Career Center that is run by the school district, we've got something that we've never had. It's kind of the missing piece. But, yeah, there's criticism. And, I think over the years, the fact that we didn't have a lot of success, we were out, rather than focusing on growing the businesses that were already here, we were out there maybe looking for the big fish too much, and maybe the criticism wasn't all that unfair, that we were looking past our own businesses and our own entrepreneurs here and not doing what we could to help them be successful and create jobs. So we flipped our priorities away from business attraction, going to Los Angeles or Chicago and trying to attract businesses from there, here, for example, to putting a little more emphasis on building the businesses that are already here.
Larry, let's talk also about the Chamber's relationship with the University of Kansas. Tell us about the cooperative things you do and how you all relate with other, not only historically, but as you see it going forward.
That's a great question. We have a huge asset in our town here of the University of Kansas. I mean, we are so fortunate. And I think they have, in recent years, really realize the assets that they have inside the university that can, go out to the marketplace. So they're more interested in economic development probably than they ever have been, because they're not relying totally on tuition and state aid to run the schools. They need, to take intellectual properties and put them to market. So we work especially closely with the Bioscience Technology Business Center, which is the BTBC, that's on Becker Drive up on the West Campus. And they're an incubator for small businesses, startups, technical, and bioscience. I think right now there's about 43 businesses that are incubating, growing, developing, that hopefully will eventually stay in Lawrence as they come out of the incubation and be businesses that we can help grow over the years. And again, our emphasis changed from business attraction to looking, more within and looking at the companies and businesses that are here in Douglas County and Lawrence that we can help grow. And the BTBC is just an enormous asset for that to occur. A lot of technology from the School of Pharmacy, biochemistry, engineering, and the business school the technologies are there, and they've started developing companies inside this incubator to hopefully spin out into businesses that are on their own.
As you look over the chamber roster, has the makeup of the kinds of businesses and organizations that belong, has that, kind of similar to an earlier question, has it changed much over the years, or has it stayed pretty the mix between retail, let's say, and manufacturing and nonprofit, et cetera? Has that stayed pretty much the same?
I think there's been an increase in, as I can see it, Warner, in the social services, nonprofits. There's always been a heavy concentration of small businesses, and that's still the major membership or small businesses that are here in our community. The large manufacturers, several of those are members. There's a few that are not. And some of the culture has changed in that some of the larger businesses here that, have home offices somewhere else, they may or may not see the value in chamber membership. So probably there's a little less concentration of large businesses, especially if they're owned outside of Lawrence. But the small business emphasis is still here. And then there's been the growing over the years of the nonprofits and social service organizations that have joined. And a lot of that is the networking abilities that the chamber membership gives them to be able to educate other people about what they're doing at their agencies. Now, the banks have always been very supportive of the chamber work, and most all of the banks in the area belong to the chamber. And they're very, very helpful members because of the financial base that they bring us.
What about the relationship that the chamber has, again, probably has ebbed and flowed over the years like everything else, the chamber and the city commission as well as the county commission, and then even the state or local reps and state senator from Douglas County? What about the relationship with government in general?
Well, those are very important relationships, and for whatever reason, Warner, I can't explain it, we didn't work as hard on those relationships for a few years, and I've really made it an emphasis on us to develop the relationship with the city, the county, the university, as well as our representatives in Topeka and our representatives in Congress in the United States. So usually in April, we go to Washington, D.C. for 2.5 days or so and get appointments with the congressional delegation there. We do spend a lot of time with the Kansas delegation, the Lawrence delegation. We have a group that's called the Kansas Research Nexus, which is a group formed to promote the animal care corridor, which extends from Emporia to Manhattan to Topeka to Lawrence to Kansas City to St. Joseph to Columbia, Missouri. But we focus in the Kansas Research Nexus with Manhattan and Topeka, and we work together on legislative priorities, and we work with them in the legislature. As far as our local legislators are concerned, they're very in tune. We run our legislative priorities by them. In fact, we're kind of in the process of doing that right now. We're going to meet on I think the 6th or 7th with the legislators to go over our priorities and make sure that we're in tune. And then there's this ongoing communication throughout the session. We try to keep in touch also with the Kansas Governor's Office. Eileen Hawley, who used to work here at the Chamber, is the press secretary for the governor. We believe in a strong relationship with her and the governor's office. So there's a lot of outreach that goes on, and also they may pick up the phone at different times and call us and say, what do your members think about this particular law or initiative? And we try to give, honest, concise opinions as to what we're thinking. So it's very important, those relationships, and we work on them all the time.
Well, what about, specifically to what the Chamber has been up to? Why don't you, if you would, look back and give us what you believe have been some highlights for the Chamber and over the past year and some of the big things on your radar screen going forward?
Well, we had actually 5 companies that have announced offices or operations here in Lawrence over the last year. The first one is Integrated Animal Health, which is an Australian-based company. They're in the BTBC. They have a lot of technology, a lot of potential applications for animal health in food supplements. The second one was 800 USA, which is a call center operated in North Lawrence out by the Turnpike Center there, 300 jobs. They are home officed in Kansas City, Missouri. Their goal was to come in here and hire 300 employees as soon as possible, full-time employees. And we talked to them late last week, and they've hired 280. So they were just 20 short last week of what their goal was. A third is a company called Stason Pharmaceuticals. Stason has a presence at the BTBC and at the KU Medical Center. It's one of those 43 companies that I spoke of that's incubating. And this operation here would be human health. The component at the Med Center is animal health. But they are a Irvine, California-based pharmaceutical company that has potential here for manufacturing at some point, where a lot more jobs, a lot more opportunities for people to get good paying jobs in a pharmaceutical company, manufacturing company. Probably one of the most noteworthy accomplishments this year is the fourth one, which is Midwest Builders, which is a division of Menard stores out of Eau Claire, Wisconsin. They are in the process of purchasing 90 acres at Lawrence Venture Park, which would make them our first tenant out there. They will create somewhere between 100 and 150 jobs, and they will bring somewhere between $25 and $35 million of capital investment to Lawrence. Again, a great name, a great company. They will manufacture items that are not, that they don't want to buy somewhere else, that they sell in their stores, and eventually they will manufacture what we, for the lack of a better term, call a modular home that can be shipped out of the park on rail or by truck to be assembled at another location. Warner also this year, we've had 2 other companies, DM Bruce Company and Iowa EPS Company Products, announced that they are relocating to Lawrence with an additional 38 jobs. So this year, we've created over 500 jobs, and we feel good about that. Again, what 2016 has in store for us, we don't know, but we enjoy the opportunity to work with the Kansas City Area Development Council and the Kansas Department of Commerce as they bring potential job companies to us with jobs.
You know, before we wind down here, again, we had touched on the new video by the Chamber. How can people see that thing? Where can they go to see it?
They can go to lawrencechamber.org, which is our website, and at that website you can find, click on the video. It's kind of a summary of 2015 projects. It's about 4 minutes long, and it'll give the viewer and listener a really good idea of what's occurred in Lawrence in 2015.
What about, Larry, also, again, the Chamber, you mentioned again, but why don't you go ahead and mention the Chamber website again and any other information if people wanted to get a hold of the Chamber for any reason, how do they do that?
Yeah, I misspoke a little earlier. It's lawrencechamber.com. I said org. It's lawrencechamber.com. And another website that's good for them to go to is to EDC. That's Edward David Cat Lawrence, edclawrence.com, and that also is a website that has a lot of information about what we're doing here.
Well, we appreciate your time today, Larry. Again, Larry McElwain, the president and CEO of the Chamber of Lawrence, Kansas, and has been in the saddle now for a while, and appreciate your insights, and best of luck to you and the work that the Chamber is doing, trying to bring jobs and develop or promote economic development here, and we'd love to have you on again.
Thank you, Warner. I look forward to that.
You bet. We will be back with more right after this on Lewis at Large.